Hi, welcome to the Culture Curators Podcast. We're here to share insights, information, and resources to help you become a more effective salon and business leader.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's topic is rental versus commission. If you are a salon owner, and let's say that you're just opening up your salon, you might have a question, should I go rental? Should I go commission? If you're a current commission owner, have you thought about switching to rental? If you're a current rental owner, have you thought about switching to commission? And lastly, have you thought about the hybrid method, which would be some commission, some rental? Let's get into it.
Boy, there's a lot to dive into on this episode, that's for sure. And it's kind of a hot, juicy topic. It's a robust conversation that we're going to have because there's so many layers to this. And so let's start out with looking at a new owner. So if you're a new owner, what are you going to do? Are you going to have a commission salon? Meaning you have employees and you are the employer. Are you going to have a rental salon, meaning you have a lease with an individual and they come in and they do their work at the designated space and do their thing? Big difference between the two. What are you going to do? So let's talk about this.
There's a lot of confusion around this. So for clarity, again, I think what Jill just said is really important and worth repeating. If you're thinking commission-based, they will be a W-2 employee. What comes along with an employer are all the responsibilities that you have as an employer. It's payroll taxes, it's workman's comp, in many states it's sick leave, it's many of those things. If you're looking at a rental structure, they are your tenants. You have a lack of control to a very, very high degree, different than if they are your employee. The challenges that many of us see when we're talking to rental-based owners is that they treat their renters as employees, and that becomes a very gray area.
It really does. And I just want to say that Derek and I are not experts in this field, and anything and everything you do for your business, we absolutely recommend that you consult your legal team and attorney to ensure that it's correct for you, for your business, and for your state. This is simply a very robust conversation that we're having because we were just talking about it offline, and it's like, this is so good, we've got to start rolling this because this is what it's all about. And so I think it would be remiss of us not to mention 1099. I know specifically a lot of salons run their business as a 1099, which means to me that I'm giving you, as the business owner, I'm giving you a certain percentage of money based on the services you bring in. Typically, a rental is somebody who signs a lease, as Derek said, and they collect all of their own money and they create everything around their own business. A commission is, as Derek already stated, I pay you a commission, I pay my share of the taxes for the money that you earn. I have policies and procedures. I can hold you accountable to what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it, how you dress, what time you come in, etc. There are very, very big differences, and I just really have to say that I have not seen a 1099 organization that does fall within compliance of the laws currently.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you understand and that we all understand each state has their own regulations and laws, right? I know namely New Jersey and Pennsylvania, they don't even allow booth rental. They have suites and they have commission-based salons that are W-2 employee-based, but they don't even allow, it's illegal to actually rent. So you really have to do your due diligence with your own state, with your own labor laws. This becomes a huge part of what you are responsible for as the business owner. This is not about just getting behind the chair, opening up a beautiful salon, doing the build out, making it look good, making it smell good, decorating, and then operating. It's about really understanding the laws. And again, as Jill mentioned, we're not lawyers, right? We have experience in this area with coaching people. We've both operated commission-based salons, but we're not lawyers. So you need to really do your own due diligence. Consult with a lawyer. Like Jill said, consult with your legal team. If you don't have a legal team, start to build one. At least get one that you can trust, that has knowledge of the laws for your state. Do your research online and make sure that it's credible sources. And this information is available out there for you to find. The reality is that you don't want to be in a space of a gray area. The IRS, the government, they don't like gray areas. There's no such thing that's going to be legal in a gray area. So if you find that you're 1099ing people simply because you're looking to avoid certain aspects of what would happen if they were W-2, i.e. employee payroll taxes, which a lot are 1099ing because of that, let's be real, then you're definitely not going to be in compliance. And I think you have to be realistic with yourself about that. Also, the way that the income for the business is collected is a very important component. So if all of the money is being pooled, if you have a front desk area, let's say, whether you have a person there or not, if all of the money is being collected for all of the services in the entire business and being pooled into your business account, and then you're then distributing those funds to other people, in essence, they're your employees. If those people have a signed lease agreement for a year or longer, but let's use it as a year, all they're doing is they're paying you monthly for the space. Right? So a lot of times that's broken down into weekly, but multiply that by the amount of weeks in the month, you have a monthly rent. So I know as a landlord, residentially speaking, I have certain control over my tenants as far as what they can and cannot do on my property. But they also have very strong rights, and again, depends on the state, but this is residential for a moment, just to kind of talk like, tenant landlord relationship. They have certain rights as well of what I cannot do as a landlord also. Very, very different when you come into an employee-based situation. And what we see, a lot of times when you go on Facebook, we see these groups and a lot of the conversations happening. We see frustrated rental-based owners with something that their renter has done, that they're like, I'm terminating their lease, or I've had it with this person. They leave their station a mess. They come late. They come when they're not supposed to. They this, they that. And it's like, well, that sounds like a lot of control. And the more that you look to control, the more that the IRS and the government's going to look at you as an employer, not a landlord.
Yeah, absolutely. So in other words, if you have a lease and it's a rental salon, but you want control, in other words, you want to have a team meeting or you want to have a salon meeting and you expect people to be here, you don't even have to use the word mandatory. You just highly recommend or you highly encourage. The IRS sees that as control and will question whether or not that should be an employee-employer relationship versus a landlord and renter relationship. So you have to be very aware of it. And it goes right back to the very beginning. What kind of a salon do you want to have? Do you want to be a landlord? And if you want to be a landlord, then you have a rental salon. You give up a lot of control. You give up a lot of rights. They specifically pay you for a space, and that's the end of it. If you want to have more control, if you want to have more say-so in what's happening within the four walls of your business, then perhaps it's a commission structure that will work best for you. Now, I personally think commission structure is a lot more responsibility, a lot more work intensive than being a landlord, which that's what you are. If you're a rental salon, you're just collecting the rent. That's what you're doing, and you're maintaining the overall property, and that's about it. So you have to ask yourself, where do you want to be in that spectrum? And it's either renting or it's commission, or is it? There's a third way to do it, which is hybrid.
And I think hybrid is probably the hardest because you're really operating two businesses under one roof and two different kind of dynamics. The reality is, and we hear this with rental owners a lot too, is like, well, I have a team, we do have a culture, and we want to be clear. Listen, if you're working in a traditional looking salon, meaning there's no walls in between stations, let's say there's 10 stations and there's 10 chairs and it's out in a wide open space, right? That's how I'm defining your traditional looking salon for the moment. If you have that space, clients walking in have no idea if you have a commission structure or if you have a rental structure. If you have the rental structure, does it not mean that you can't work together and be kind to each other, support each other? Of course it does. But at the same time, are you building the traditional type of team that would be employee-based? Absolutely not. And you need to be really, really clear about that. Because again, the more that you try to create that type of environment, the more you're moving toward a employee-based environment that is going to put you in a weird gray area. And as we mentioned, these gray areas are a no-no.
There's a lot of gray areas. It gets like the sea. quite honestly. And I think about working with some clients and looking at a rental salon's website. And if you go onto that website and it looks like an entire salon there, and you can click on a team member, etc., chances are you'll need to relook at that website, because the reality is, if you have renters within your site, you can have your website, which is the full website with the salon name on it, but within that, there should be each renter's website as well. So click on, Susie Curl's website, and then her workspace comes up. It's her culture, it's her look, it's her work, it's her policies, it's her cancellation fees, it's all of those things, book with Susie, etc. But it has to be on that front page of your website. You just simply click on it, and it clearly tells you that she's running her own business within your business.
Right. Your renters more than likely would open up their own LLC or some type of company or corporation that they're running their business through, right? So it's really important that you have clear communication to the clients, that they understand. So for instance, if Jill is a renter in my salon, and Jill comes 1 hour late for her client's appointment, or Jill makes a mistake and there's some level of correction that needs to be made, and all of a sudden that client's now contacting me, expecting me to fix it because it's my salon, well then clearly I haven't communicated directly to Jill's client how the operation works. You have to think about what your branding is like for your salon, what the name of your salon is like. Are you making it like it's one big, again, if you're renting, one big company, or are you letting people know that this is a collection of individuals who all run their own business? Where is money being collected? A renter should be collecting their own money with their own POS system that's going into their own business account. That's the way it's going to be clean and clear and completely separate from the actual business that they're renting from. Just like I mentioned before, if the owner is doing services, or maybe that owner has an assistant, or in a scenario of a hybrid, maybe they have a few employees, that's where that money can be collected, together. But all of your renters really need to be responsible for their own individually. And in your lease agreements, a lot of times, maybe there's a few things included like back bar supplies and towels or laundry, but all of these things need to be really clear and outlined in the lease agreement so that you and your tenant or your renter is very, very clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you need to decide is if your renter is going to have 24/7 access. Are they renting their space and they can come and go as they choose? Or are they renting that space for certain times and certain days? Those things have to be spelled out very, very specifically on the lease agreement. We have to really get massive clarity to set everybody up for a win, and anything that's in that lease that's written and agreed upon, then you can hold them to that. But if it's not written in the lease, good luck holding them to it.
And also to restate, you need to check with your state and see what's legal that you can put in that lease. Because if you start putting in things like dress code and things like that into the lease, could you put it in there? Yes, but is that really technically enforceable and legal to put it in there? You need to find that out from your state. That's not a question that Jill and I can answer for you. But what we do know is the more control that you try to bring into your lease or into your renters, the more the IRS is going to look at you that you're misclassifying if they're not an actual employee.
Yeah, absolutely. You really need to have the blessing of your attorney.
Yeah.
Your legal team has to bless this before you ever go out and have the first person sign it. And that's what's so important. And I really think that that's really key, because a lot of us get really excited and we go out and we tell somebody and they agree to come on and be a renter, and we don't have everything quite in place. We're kind of working on it, and maybe they're a friend of ours and we're like, it's cool, as soon as we get it, we'll get it signed and stuff. You got to back it up, you got to slow that roll down, and you've got to have everything documented, checked off, blessed by the attorneys before you allow that first lease to be signed. It's so important. And the same, let's transition a little bit into, I'm going to open up a salon and I've decided I want to have a commission salon. What do I need to think about? What's all involved in opening up a commission salon? Because there's a lot of steps, regardless of which way you decide to go.
Well, I think the number one question that you should be asking yourself that a lot of us don't think about, I know I did not think about this when I first opened my salon, are you willing to lead people? Are you willing to put yourself aside to lead people, to bring them under your wing, to teach them, to train them, to nurture them, to help them grow? Are you willing to step away from behind the chair, carve out specific time for them to help them grow? Because if they're a rental on the other side, that's where Jill was mentioning before, much more of a hands-off approach. Commission-based, much more hands-on. So you need to ask yourself if you're ready, willing, and able to dedicate the amount of time needed to help people grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's make no mistake about it. A startup business takes enormous time, enormous effort, and funding. You have to ask yourself, where are you going to get the money? And one of the things that we tend to really look at and put all of our energy and our focus in is the aesthetics of the business. Oh my gosh, I want a water wall over here, and I want this over there, and I want that. I actually have worked with people that have spent $1.5 million opening up their business, mainly on aesthetics. And I'm telling you, you could do it for a lot less than 1.5 million because you're going to have to feed your business in the beginning. I don't know how long you're going to have to feed it. It's really dependent upon you. Some people it takes a year to cash flow. Some people are cash flowing in the first month. It just depends. But you have to really sit down and analyze, do I have the funds to have a commission salon? What is my budget going to look like for getting the salon up and running? And then just know that you are going to have a budget every single month, and perhaps you're going to have to put money into your business in the beginning. Are you prepared to do that financially? Are you prepared to do what needs to be done emotionally? Do you have a team surrounding you that's going to help you, that's going to encourage you, who's walked that walk before, who's going to hold you accountable to the things that you say you wanted? You need to have a policy and procedure manual prior to opening up the doors. We work with a ton of clients and they don't have a policy and procedure manual, or they do, but they don't even know what's in it. Well, if you don't know as the owner what's in it, how are you going to expect that your team knows what's in it? So I could go on and on about the steps and the layers to opening up a commission-based salon.
Yeah, I think too, talking about when you're first opening and if you're building out, we're going to do a separate episode on kind of build out and expense and that stuff, but this does touch on it for sure. And when you think about it, I want you to look up the statistics of small businesses and their success rate from year 1 through year 5. So many businesses, it's upwards of the 80 percentile that go out within year 1 for the number one reason of underfunding. They don't have enough cash flow to keep them going. So if you've spent your entire budget on the build out and you're down to a very small amount in your operating account, how can you operate? The cash flow is the blood flow of your business. I'm smacking the microphone over here. Cash flow I'm passionate about this. It's the blood flow of the business, right? So if you don't have enough cash flow for the first year to really get you through for real, especially if you're opening up commission, you need to hire people. That's an investment. You need to make sure that, okay, if you're still the one that's actually doing all the hair, you're doing all the services or the nails or the massage, whatever you do. Okay, you're going to do that 5 days a week from the minute that the place opens to the minute it closes. Can you operate that on your own? Can you sustain the rent on its own? Plus, if you took out a construction loan and again, it's almost like when we see people, building, it's like it becomes like a wedding. It's like, oh, throw that in and throw that in and throw that in. But all of a sudden you're way over budget very, very quickly. And then you haven't saved enough money to make sure that for the actual lifeblood of the business, right? So commission salons, there's a lot of beauty around commission salons. There's a lot of great things you can build. When we talk about culture, we believe it's a commission-based salon that you can really build a culture in. Any kind of organization that has a group of people around it has some level of culture, but it's going to be a different type of culture, again, if you're rental versus commission.
As you can probably tell, Derek and I both cut our teeth in commission salons, and that's where we're very passionate about. Most of our clients are commission salon owners, because the reality is there's not a lot that we can do to impact the bottom line on renters except for get more renters in and maybe charge them more. But the profitability can only be, there's a ceiling to that for rental. Now, one of the things in closing that we want to discuss is the hybrid. We've touched on it a little bit, but hybrid meaning that you have some commissioned team members and then you have some rental. And I'll tell you that it is an attractive thing to think about and to talk about, because we have commissioned stylists that want to go to the next level. Some people want to be their own boss. They want to go out and they want to rent. So if they're going to go out and rent, why not rent from you? And so now we start thinking maybe our salon should be a hybrid salon.
Yeah, and I think you have to really think about the dynamics of that and how that can work, because if there's not clarity within the personnel that you have, that some are renting and some are employees, they might start to feel like you're creating an unfair environment if they're not clear on what that actually environment is. So if you have a stylist that can kind of move into rental, then you need to have a really clear structure on what that looks like. If you have young stylists that are your W-2 workers and your commission base, and then you have other tenured people that are also rental, they're going to have two different dynamics between the two. Again, the renters are going to be working out of their own business under your roof. So you have to be really clear on what that looks like. And if they were your employee and now they turn to rental, you might have a really hard time releasing the control, which could really get you into some trouble.
Right, but we have to go back to that rental agreement and what it states, in that you truly then become the landlord of that particular spot that they're renting from you. I also think that it's really vitally important that the entire team knows the difference between the commission versus the rental, because if I'm a young commission W-2 employee and I suddenly see Jane, who used to go to team meetings, salon meetings, suddenly not going, I'm like confused, and I'm thinking maybe I don't have to go now as well because Jane's not going and she's still here. And so I think that the definition needs to really be clear, and the expectations of both sides need to be very, very clear as well.
Absolutely. I think the large part of this conversation, and many of our conversations in many of our episodes, is about clarity. It's about creating clarity for the people that work with you or for you. So when I say work with you, possibly your renters, for you, your W-2 employees, and making sure that if you do have a hybrid, there are clear lines of delineation. And not to mention to the client as well. Clients must understand the differences, and you can do this in a very clear and concise way, very professional way. Jill mentioned through the website, and also just through conversation, the way that you explain to clients how this works. Because the reality is clients don't understand this. It's not their job to understand it, so it's our job to help explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all we have. We could go on and on and on. It's such a robust conversation that we're having. However, just want to remind everyone that it's really important that you seek legal advice before setting the structure of your salon or doing a check-in with your legal team. If you have an existing salon and now you're like, I'm questioning this, I have 1099 or I have rental, but I have certain controls and expectations, or I have commission, and I just want to make sure that you are legally set up and your business is legally set up for a great big win. Look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Culture Curators Podcast. Please like, comment, follow, and subscribe.